Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Jade Alberts. I'm a small business strategist, influencer, and brand builder. My passion is helping small businesses succeed, grow. Sharing knowledge and stories is why I started Telling It Like It Is. Facebook Live, it is live. If you do have any questions, please ask them. If you're viewing this later on another social media platform, ask away. Your questions will get answered. Today's Telling It Like It Is guest is Koleya Karringten, co-founder of Absolute Combustion and executive director of Alberta Blockchain Consortium. Koleya, thank you for joining me. And how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm so excited having you on. It's been, I know I always kind of bring up how we met, and I read your article in the energynow.ca. I guess I don't want to call it a magazine, but online publication. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have to meet her. We happen to live in the same area. We met for coffee, and I guess the rest is history. Now we're working together with on the blockchain consortium, and it's been wonderful.
That's amazing. We love having you on board. You're amazing with our marketing. Got to tell you, thank you.
Oh, well, I mean, thank you for the kind words, but it's so fun being around people like yourself and the other blockchain. The passion that you guys have is just outstanding, and I truly believe that it will be the next technology that really drives this province. That's for sure.
Oh, definitely. The impact it can have in our major resource sectors is incredible. Like what it can do in agriculture, energy, ground transportation, logistics, supply chain management, healthcare. Like it's definitely a revolutionary technology, but it's still just it's in its development phases still. So it's helping educate people on the transformative power of it, as well as where it's sitting in the development stages, and then working towards implementation and adoption of it.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, it's fun to be at the grassroots level of that too, and putting together something across Canada that will be inspirational and critical for the growth of blockchain.
Oh, I definitely hope so. What we're trying to do in Alberta right now is it really definitely is a grassroots movement. Like not many people are aware of the technology specifically. Not many people are aware of what it's capable of doing. So first and foremost, it's all about educating, educating people. And then once we get them educated, it's building that ecosystem so that people can not only become also support it, because if you don't understand what the technology is, it's very difficult to support it, and then it's very easy to. But once you understand its capabilities, the fact that it can actually help create jobs, the fact that it can decrease operational budgets for companies so that they don't have to spend as much money.
Yeah.
Sorry, honey, just saying goodbye. Okay. Home for this right now. Once they start understanding that power that the technology actually has, then they can start speaking to it inside their own businesses, talking to their executive team, saying, hey, there's opportunities for this technology, and where there's those kind of opportunities for growth, and companies can become more advantageous in the marketplace, which is incredible as well.
No, I agree. There's not one point that you made there that isn't true. So we'll get into a little bit more of the blockchain later, but let's talk about you a little bit here. So I'll do a brief introduction, and then we'll get into the questions. So, I mean, Koleya has been a tech entrepreneur, researcher, and speaker for 14 years. She has spent over a decade designing, developing new technology into multiple industry sectors, from oil and gas, recycling to aerospace. She is co-founder and CEO of Absolute Combustion and executive director of Alberta Blockchain Consortium. Working within technology companies over the last decade, she has proven herself capable of taking groundbreaking technologies all the way from inception phase through to commercialization, while developing relationships with major corporations to facilitate the development of various technologies she assists in developing. So, I mean, that is something that's really neat, and I love your background story. And I mean, obviously, you have co-founded 4 companies, and as I've gotten to know you, I've really admired and looked up to your energy, passion and drive. So, please share with our listeners how you do this.
It's a team effort. to manage me, I guess I have to say. It's definitely not all done on my own. I'm really grateful. In terms of Absolute Combustion, I have an incredible team there. A cousin, LeMay Saunders, she manages a lot of my operations, procurement. I have an incredible engineering team, automations team. So because of the well-organized, well-coordinated team, I'm able to do what I do best, which is kind of business development and relationship building and sales. And then they really kind of grow and develop into our company. With the Alberta Blockchain Consortium, again, it's major team sport. The fact that we have like 4 year one of really helps me again do what I do best, which is more of the BD side of things. So, marketing, so I don't have to sit there trying to figure out what to post it. Amanda Haverlick is incredible. She make sure everything goes smoothly. Dave Bradley, who helped me start the ABC, manages all the technology, so constantly educating me on blockchain and keeping me up to date with everything that's new and emerging, making sure I say the right things when it comes to the tech. And so it's just, we have an amazing team. I have a wonderful executive assistant who also helps manage me. So I can do a lot of things because I get to focus on what my best tasks are. My dad was a professional business coach for most of my life, actually. So he started training me in business when I was 3. And one of the top things was only do your A-list tasks. Like if you're not an accountant, you shouldn't be doing your own bookkeeping. If you're going to be drafting your own, contracts and such. So based on that, I only focus on what I know I'm really good at, and then make sure I get the resources, people to work on what their strengths are.
And that is such a, hearing you say that and listening to you emphasize how important your team is such a valid point to so many entrepreneurs and small business owners out there. When I'm dealing with a lot of these people, they have a hard time letting go, and because that's the way it's always been. And to actually have them say, okay, I will let that go, whether it be marketing or accounting or whatever it is. I mean, to focus on what you're good at is such a valid point. And it's an amazing, and that you've been able to put together such a great team around you, and that, kudos to you.
No, well, thank kind of comes from a story my dad used to tell me. He told me a lot when I was younger, and he would talk about Ford, the gentleman that started them. And he had like a grade 8 education, but the thing that he was a master of was coordinating people's efforts. And my dad would say, like, he had his desk, and his desk had like 8 phones all lined up on the desk, and each phone would be able to pick up. He was an absolute expert in their field. So it's like an expert on combustion or an expert on automotive, whatever the specialty were. And if he had a question, he could just go to them. And it was basically like, you should not be the smartest person leading your ship. You should just be able to coordinate people who are infinitely smarter than you to move towards, your end goals. So I always make sure anyone that I bring on board is more of a mentor. It's like, can I learn from you? Because if I can learn from one, developing out myself, but 2, that you're the right person position.
Oh, that is great. I can't remember who said it, but obviously the same type of thing. I always put smarter people around me because, I want to learn from everybody, and that is awesome. So that
want to be the smart person that runs my ship. I just want to focus on what I'm good at, and it's a lot more freeing. I used to have that kind of micromanaging piece where it's like, okay, I got to make sure absolutely everything gets done, and everything has to get done perfectly, and I'm still up till like 2 and 3 in the morning working most of the time on things, but at least I'm working on the things I know I'm really, really good at. It is hard to let go. I get that. Like, I've been an entrepreneur now for 14 years, and it wasn't until the last 4 that I really started seeing the value of going, wait a second, you're really good at this. Why am I telling you what to do? So I'm deferring this position over to you because, I'm not the expert. I didn't go to school for this. So It's made my life.
Oh, they're very, very true. I'm talking to Koleya Karringten, CEO of Absolute Combustion and Executive Director. You can click on the links that are in the comments section, and you'll be able to go directly to the websites. So Absolute Combustion created a revolutionary flameless burner, and you're attracting attention all over the world. How did this technology come to fruition with you and make it into a company?
Well, actually, it started quite a while ago. I was going to be a young mom, and my father had been training me in business since I was 3. Like, he took me to my first workshops by the time I was like weekend workshops by the time I was 11, financial planners at the table, I think when I was 8. So a lot of business coaching and mentoring. And he'd always told me by the time I hit 21, we were going to write a business plan, go into business together.
Yeah.
And what was interesting was I was going to be a young mom very soon around that time. And my dad had this kind of crisis of consciousness. He was like, wait a second, there's another generation coming out. Is there going to be like clean air? Because Al Gore was talking about climate change, and you were seeing all these things happening, like the polar ice caps and the pollution in the waters, that he was very scared that the next generation wouldn't be able to have clean drinking water or not be able to walk outside without having to wear a gas mask or be able to play in a playground that wasn't previously a landfill. So he's like, okay, we have to come up with a technology, and the technology has to benefit the environment. If it benefits the environment, in turn benefits the people. So what do we do? And I was like, I'm not an engineer, so I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to help here with. But I was like, okay, Dad, we're going to do this. So we spent many years trying to partner with different inventors. And it wasn't exactly the most successful of business models, because a lot of inventors they're very passionate about their technology, which is amazing, but it's usually like never quite ready to leave the nest. They always think it's like, it's in my mind, so therefore it's $1 billion idea and everyone should know about it. And it's like, no, there's steps to take. It can't be $1 billion idea if it's not actually worth $1 billion. So after a few years, my dad actually ended up coming up with a concept on his own. And it's a little bit of a crazy story, but he ended up having more of like a dream. And in that dream, he came up with the proprietary part of our burner. And he didn't really know what he came up with because, again, my dad wasn't an engineer. He was actually a musician before he was a business coach. And he took it to a gentleman that ended up being our head of research and development for almost a decade. And he showed him this, and he says like, okay, well, I came up with this concept. I think it's this. He's like, okay, well, it probably goes to like a burner. Let's check it out. And my dad ended up raising the initial bit of funds for the company. We didn't really know much about combustion. Like, nobody was a combustion expert. Google wasn't exactly prominent then. So we had to research how to make fire, basically. And it came out with all this impressive heat, but there was no flame. And so we had no idea what we did, actually. We're like, oh, well, that's interesting. So we should go ask people, like, what does this mean? And a decade later, we understood that what we had actually done is designed a forced air system that creates 0 carbon monoxide, complete combustion within only 8 inches. It is pretty much near flameless. You can't even see the flame during the daylight, and capable of reducing fuel consumption based on the industry from anywhere from 45% all the way up to 70+%. Dramatic increase in safety because of the fact that our fuel pressures are so low. So it started off kind of as a unique dream, and then just years and years of research and development and understanding and seeing where the best fits are and how to apply it to an industry that is really needing a boost in clean technology.
Oh, that's a very neat story. I mean, I haven't I think I've done I'm coming up to 100 interviews here, and I've never heard never heard something come out of a dream. So that is pretty cool, from dream to fruition to actually helping save the environment or increase our footprint. So who uses this technology?
Right now, the Edmonton International Airport. So it's been commercialized in the energy sector as well as the recycling sector. And right now, we're really, really proud of the partnership that we've developed with the Edmonton Airport. It actually came out of right around that 2014, 2015 period when oil hit another recession. We were just about ready to commercialize the technology at that point, and we were field testing with one of the largest oil and gas producers in Alberta, and then oil dropped like $35 a barrel. They're like, everyone's stopping everything. We're like, okay, we need to kind of figure out how are we going to keep going. And my dad had just passed away a few months before. So I didn't really have my mentor for this one, but I got a phone call from a member of the Alberta government. It was the Provincial Trade Commission saying, hey, the city of Leduc will sponsor you to go to Japan to an aerospace conference. And would you be willing to join us? I was 5 months pregnant. I don't understand why I fit in that industry. Like I have no idea. I'm very interested because it's Japan, but I need a business case for this. So could you bring someone to my shop to see my technology and tell me how this fits? And we got really lucky. They brought a gentleman named Myron Keene, and he was their VP of commercial real estate. He brought a few engineers with him. They looked at it. They're like, you can do this. And they just came and rattled off so many opportunities. They're like, you need to come to Japan. So by the time I went to Japan, I had a 9-week-old baby, and I packed my entire family up with me. I was like, we're going to Japan because we're going to figure out where this technology applies. And while we were there, the head pilot for Canadian North Airlines, as well as Myron Keene, and then the mayor of Leduc at the time, walked me around the trade show floor and showed me a piece of equipment. They said, this has not been updated in 60 years. It's extremely inefficient. It costs us an insane amount of money to heat aircrafts every winter. It's dirty because of like how the diesel fuel is combusted. And the aerospace industry is very forward thinking, and they're also very aggressive in terms of making sure that they're reducing their carbon footprint. So they asked us, like, would you redesign this, and we'll partner with you on it. So 3 years later, we partnered over 3 winters of testing. We got really lucky. Their vice president of operations and infrastructure, Steve Mabey, was there the entire way. So Myron kind of handed us off to Steve, and Steve's like, okay, and worked and partnered with us and made sure that what we had was not only like a solid, reliable piece of technology that met with all the standards and certifications, but we were able to test it with companies like Executive Flight Center, who does ground servicing, and Canadian North Airlines and EIA. And we're able to have larger organizations kind of monitoring our field trials. So by the time we had our last trial, they're like, all right, we're going to commercialize this technology and we're going to partner with you on it. So they bought our first 3 units, and now we're building them, starting to do kind of like a cross-country to airports, airlines, and ground servicing companies the potential of the technology, because not only can it save 72% on diesel fuel, it can heat a plane all on its own into temperatures of about -50 without having to turn on their rear auxiliary engine. So what our competition does is when they're hooked up to an airplane in the winter, it can only heat effectively, and after that, the airplane has to turn on a rear auxiliary engine, and it's about 174 liters of jet fuel an hour, which is very, very expensive. And then if they have the jet, they call it an APU. So if they have that engine on, and then they still have the ground equipment using like 22 liters of diesel fuel an hour, then they have to have a qualified person sitting in the cockpit to make sure that the heat's being evenly distributed for a few reasons. One, you don't want the water lines to freeze in an airplane because that's millions in damage if it happens. But two, the passenger company, make sure the cabin's warm. So up in the Northwest Territories, it could cost you like $100,000 to heat an aircraft in the winter, where ours will do it for 8 liters of diesel fuel an hour into -50, no APU, no engineer. So it's a massive cost savings for them and a huge reduction in their environmental footprint.
Wow, that's impressive. And for anybody that wants more information, just go to the comment section, click on the Absolute Combustion website, and you'll be able to either contact Koleya or find out some more information about it. I mean, that is impressive. I mean, what you've been able to do with Absolute Combustion. So I'm going to transition a little bit into the blockchain here. So I know the Alberta Blockchain Consortium has kind of been your little baby. And in the last 6 months, you've made great strides putting together an impressive board team. Why blockchain, and where do you see that in maybe a year or 2 down the road?
Well, actually, it's funny because a lot of people ask me that when they're like, "You're in combustion. What does that have to do with blockchain?" And I will just nothing, like nothing. Currently anyway, if I get into more like supply chain management, then blockchain is definitely very efficient. But what happened was I was actually, I had a company that was talking about investing in my business, and they were dealing in Bitcoin. And when they were talking to me about it, I just kind of sat there like, is that money? Like, are you laundering? I was so confused. I was like, are you laundering money? Like, how do I, I'm sorry, this doesn't make any sense to me. I'm so confused. And I saw like a post my mother put on Facebook about buying Bitcoin. I'm like, how do I not know about this? It's like, I'm a tech geek. What am I missing? And so from that point, I just started researching. And the more I researched, I got just so fascinated by the proof of work side of things. And I started building out mining computers in my basement. So that was kind of like my initial foray into it, was like, I can build these computers, and these computers can solve all these computational or functional equations, sorry. And by doing that, I secure network, and I get a benefit of earning money while doing it. And I started researching more heavily into the different projects. But once I really started understanding the blockchain side of things, that's where I really pivoted. Like everybody else, you kind of get into it understanding like, what is cryptocurrency? And I realize right now that 99.9999% of all the currencies out there are just don't touch it. Just there's Bitcoin, and then there's everything else. And I've definitely realized that a lot of projects were unfortunately scams. I never promoted or did anything with ICOs, but the more I understood that there's a lot more that blockchain has to offer than just that fintech side. And then recognizing that, like, I've been in disruptive technology for so long, the first thing that comes before a technology can get adopted is education. And there was very little opportunities to get educated. I'd spent thousands of hours reading white papers, researching YouTube videos, you name it, trying to understand mainly what the technology was, but then what the applications were. What is the potential of it? And it's like, why is it so hard to find this correct information? So the first company I started actually was BitQuest. So it was a group of us. Russ was one of my, he taught me all about like building out the computers, but we started educating people. We're like focusing on the education that doesn't have to do with like investing and trading and all those other bits of information everyone else was doing, like teaching them more about that. And then the ecosystem started to get to know me a little bit better. And then I put on the blockchain technology that happened this year in Edmonton. And from that, I was asked, would I support the Alberta Blockchain Consortium? Because at the time, I think Imaginia Energy was founded by Suzanne West. And unfortunately, Suzanne West passed away. She was one of my dear mentors and actually the person that commercialized my technology in the energy sector. And she came up with the concept for the Alberta Blockchain Consortium. Mainly in name, I found out afterwards. They hadn't incorporated it or anything. But when she passed away, a sweet girl named Alanthea wanted to kind of preserve her legacy and started doing these monthly meetup groups for it. So it'd been going for about a year. It had an Eventbrite page and like a 400-person mailing list. And when I was asked to take it on, I think Imaginia was kind of shifting and pivoting focus. And the community really wanted the ABC or Suzanne's legacy to be preserved. So they asked if I would take it. So when I did, first thing I did was make sure, okay, we need to incorporate it, need to make sure it's a not-for-profit because it's here for the community for no other reason than that. Yeah. Two, we need to make sure the ecosystem has a unified voice. So I started looking, there was a lot of meetup groups and everything there. So I went to a lot of the meetups and said, why don't we consolidate? I was like, there's a very small portion of the market that's already interested in this. I was like, why are we battling over 5% when we can collectively introduce good opportunities to that 5% of the market? So we grew from 400 people to 2,000 in just a very short period of time, a few months. And then realizing that we need to gain a lot of credibility. So it can't just be, meetups. We need to educate and really help people understand. So not sitting there with like PowerPoint presentations, with people like bored the living out of you, and trying to pitch their business. It's like, if you're an expert in an area, then I have you in, focus it on being like a fireside chat. And of course, to build a community, you have to offer value. So myself and my other partner, we just made sure that we funded and had all of our ABC events be free events. So we do these beautiful charcuterie spreads, free wine, come in and just get educated, be a part of our ecosystem, be a part of our community. The first person, when we offered up corporate membership, the first company that came on board was actually Royal Bank, which was amazing. And from that, it's kind of steamrolled. Now we have RBC and Deloitte, MNP and Accenture. We have Guild One. We have EOS Cafe. We have Badali. We have Bull Bitcoin. We have some of the biggest players in the blockchain space doing real projects in Alberta as a part of it. They came in as being part of our team. And we mainly wanted to make sure that we were helping be that unified voice and creating clarity for the ecosystem. So making sure that Albertans were aware of the technologies that we had available to us, the companies that were doing these technologies, how these technologies were going to impact. And we picked all of the major resource sectors Alberta had to offer. So first one being, of course, energy, how will it impact that? Really focusing hard on what Guild 1 is doing and promoting their technology. And then in agriculture, how it's going to impact that, promoting Truspics and Olds College and MNP and other players involved in that space, how it's going to impact fintech and banking, how it's going to impact the Edmonton airports on board, how's it going to impact ground transportations, air transportations, logistics. So those are the key areas that we decided to focus on, and then make sure that we had a really safe space so that people and to get. So we don't touch anything that's ever had an ICO. We won't even touch a company that's in the midst of an STO that's doing a raise, anything that's not legal and completely compliant. And that way, who we focus on and who we support, we want people to know that not only would I want people, but I would recommend you doing business with them as well. So based on that, we've been able to grow really well.
Oh no, and I mean it is, and to get those types of the backings like RBC, MMP, Deloitte, and the others, it gives you such credibility. And for anybody that wants more information, you can go to the comment section, click on the Alberta Blockchain Consortium, and it'll take you right to the website. And I know of something exciting that's coming up, September 9th to 13th, Alberta Blockchain Week, highlighted by the summit on the Thursday. Why don't you share some of the highlights that are going to happen in the second week of September?
I'm really excited about that one. So first, we've been planning this summit for 6 months now, and it was all around Andreas Antonopoulos. He is an incredible speaker. He's written many books. He's definitely considered an industry leading expert on like Bitcoin and blockchain. And so he let us know what his dates were. We're like, okay, we'll take that one and we'll plan everything around it. And then next thing we knew, there was a few other events that were happening in that week. And we're like, okay, guys, we're not going to collectively work together. Alberta's never had a blockchain week before. I was like, this is an incredible opportunity for us to rally together to really prove that Alberta can lead the way for Canada in terms of industrial use case applications and blockchain. And we're going to focus on 5 days of events. So we got all the people agreed to do events on board. We grew from 3 events to 9 events in 2 weeks. Now we're sitting at 13, I believe, 12, 13 events. And we already have people asking, okay, so can we have this for Blockchain Week 2020? Excited about that. Monday Energy Day being kicked off by Guild 1. They have sponsors like Amazon and R3, and they're going to be focusing heavy on how amazing and transformative blockchain technology is going to be in the energy space. And then we're also launching the Canadian Blockchain Association for Women that I'm really proud to co-found with our partners at Deloitte and our executive director, Alexis Pappas, and a few other incredible ladies, a few from NDAX. And we have Minister Ashir attending that event as we showcase our very first project called Building Blocks, which is in partnership with Blockchain for Indigenous Rights. And then on Wednesday, it's Digital Economy Day, and we have an incredible roundtable with government. So some of our leading executives are going to be speaking with government on all the projects that they're currently working on in the space and how it's supporting Alberta. Our VIP receptions that night, so I highly recommend people attend that one. We have Peter Todd and Andreas and a lot of our other feature speakers. And of course, like the apex of this entire week is the summit that we're very, very proud of that one. It's an entire day of events. We have panels that focus on, again, energy, agriculture, finance, securities, how that's going to be transformative. We have Peter Todd doing a fireside chat with Dave Bradley. I can't wait to listen to that one. The most brilliant man. We have our opening ceremony that's going to kick it off. And then on Friday, YY Chain is partnering and doing a research event at the University of Calgary. So it's a full-on week. It should be incredible. I think the New York one and Toronto Blockchain Week all started very similar, very grassroots, just a few events, and then it'll be steamrolled from there. So we plan on every single year at the Alberta Blockchain Consortium is going to support Alberta Blockchain Week in September. And then, of course, we always have our signature event in the spring in Edmonton, which will be the Technology Symposium, because we want to showcase that there is a holistic approach to technology. It's not just a one-stop shop. Blockchain is not the cure-all for everything. It's a component of a puzzle. So in that event, we usually have 3 rooms going simultaneously, one that focuses on machine learning, one for blockchain, and we discuss how all 3 of these technologies, including others like robotics and nanotech, can offer incredible value for this province and help us be seen as Canada's Silicon Valley based on the level of talent and organizations that we have here supporting it.
Oh, and that's impressive, and putting that together in really a short period of time is excellent. And anybody, you can just go to the comment section, click on albertablockchainsummit.com, and you'll be able to get a link to look at your tickets as well. So I guess kind of wrapping up, what's next for you? I mean, you've accomplished so much. You're an entrepreneur. You've been in so many different industries. What are you going to do next?
Oh, my baby's still Absolute Combustion. So I'm going to be taking my baby international, pretty much. I want to take our technology and not just have strong impacts in energy and aviation, but getting into construction and showing benefits there, getting into projects that deal with waste to energy and incineration. Like, how can we cleanly dispose of our municipal wastes, getting more into plastics recycling. How can this technology support the removal of a lot of the low density polyethylenes that's clogging up our landfills and destroying our aquatic life. So I will definitely be keeping my focus strong on Absolute Combustion while building our Alberta's technology ecosystem.
Oh, that's impressive. I mean, that's keeping the plastics out of the ocean and is such a, you read so much about that lately, and it's such a problem. I know. So I guess the last question I have for all my guests is, if you have, one piece of advice for small business entrepreneurs or startups, and I know you discussed kind of letting go to grow and delegating, but what if there's something else, what would that be?
It feels a little cliche to say it because I know a lot of people would be about that. Sorry, that's another thing. I know it sounds cliche, but it's a big part of it is not giving up on your dream. Like, I've probably heard 1,000 no's before I got my first yes to finally, commercialize my technology. It is not an easy road. It really isn't. But if you keep yourself focused, if you truly believe in what you're doing, just don't let anything stop you. That would be my biggest piece. Like, it took me 8 years to finally sell my technology into the energy sector, and then a full 10 years in the company before I got to sell it into aviation. So you got to have tenacity. You got to get used to rejection, and you have to just know that no matter what anybody else thinks, if your dream's important to you, you can make it happen if you work for it. Like, opportunity is missed by so many people because it's dressed in overalls and looks like work. So it's a long and hard road for some. There's definitely people who made it a lot quicker than me, but it's really worth it in the end if you believe in what you're doing, to put that effort in and keep going. And also focus on your A-list tasks. Like, do not focus on the stuff that you're not putting. It won't flourish that way.
I 100% agree with that, and of course that piece of advice too. So I would like to, thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge and your story today. The Absolute Combustion and the Alberta blockchain, I think, are such key components into the future of Alberta and how we're going to grow technology. So I'm happy to be a part of it with the blockchain technology, and maybe in a year and a half we'll have this conversation again, and I'm looking forward to see where you'll be from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on our show, and thank you so much for supporting our ABC.
Oh, I love it. Again, if anybody has, it was a great conversation with Koleya Smith Karringten today. Any questions that you do have, please throw them down or reach out to. All the links are in the comments section below. So again, Koleya, thank you very much, and have yourself a great day. Okay, bye-bye.